What if the entire air war in Ukraine is about to change? Well, a brand new NATO member just put an offer on the table that could do exactly that. We're talking about tipping the scales in a fight for the skies that, let's be honest, has been brutally one-sided. So let's get right into it. And just how significant is this? We are talking about a massive number, up to 150 of some of the world's most advanced fighter jets. To put that in perspective, this is the very first time any NATO ally has even suggested a number that big. This is way more than just about the planes themselves. President Zelensky put it perfectly. He said, "We are opening an entirely new and truly meaningful chapter in our relations." That right there, that signals a huge shift in the kind of support Kyiv might be about to get. All right, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the announcement, then dig into why Kyiv is fighting so hard for its airspace. After that, we'll get into the details of the Gripen-E itself and wrap up with the big picture, the strategic shift this could cause. Okay, let's jump into our first section, the announcement. This is really where it all begins, where a potential handshake could, no joke, change the entire direction of the war. Okay, so a really important detail here. This isn't a signed, sealed, and delivered contract. Not yet, anyway. It's what's called a letter of understanding. Think of it as the serious first step. All the nitty-gritty stuff, the costs, the delivery dates, that all still needs to be ironed out. But the main thing, the really big news, is that the door is now officially wide open for 100 to 150 of these jets. And if you're wondering what's in it for Sweden, well, it's about a lot more than just Ukraine's defense. The Swedish Prime Minister, Ulf Kristersson, basically said this move strengthens everybody. It's a pretty powerful statement, right? It's saying, hey, a secure Ukraine equals a more secure Europe, period. All right, so that's the offer on the table. But why is everyone calling it a game changer? To really get that, you have to understand what's happening on the ground, or more accurately, in the sky. And that brings us to Kyiv's incredibly tough fight for control of its own airspace. And wow, this slide really lays out the stark reality. It's a massive imbalance. You've got Ukraine working with a small, aging fleet of mostly old Soviet airplanes. And then you have Russia with an air force that's just bigger and more advanced in pretty much every way. That superiority lets them dominate the front lines and launch attacks pretty much wherever they want. Now, don't get me wrong, Western allies have stepped up. They've sent some older F-16s, a few French Mirages, and look, every single plane has been absolutely critical. But the problem has always been about scale. The numbers just haven't been there to really truly challenge Russia's dominance in the sky. And that leads us perfectly to the potential solution. The star of the show, really, the Gripen-E. So what is this thing? What makes it so special? Okay, so the basics. The Saab Gripen-E is a single-engine multi-role fighter. Multi-role is just a fancy way of saying it's a jack-of-all-trades. It can dogfight with other planes, it can attack targets on the ground, it does it all. And even the company that makes it, Saab, isn't shy. They straight up call it a game changer. But here's where it gets really interesting, and why this jet seems almost tailor-made for Ukraine's current situation. First off, it's relatively cheap to operate and way easier to maintain and arm than a lot of other jets. But the real kicker, the absolute killer feature, is its landing capability. It can take off and land on damaged runways, regular roads, even just strips of dirt. Think about that. It makes it so much harder for Russia to take out Ukraine's air force just by bombing a few big air bases. And firepower? Oh, yeah, it's got that. The Gripen-E packs a serious punch. We're talking 10 hard points. That's 10 spots on the plane to hang missiles, bombs, you name it. It can carry a lot of weapons. And you gotta understand, this isn't just some old plane with a few upgrades. The E model is the latest and greatest. It just entered service. This thing is a massive leap forward. We're talking brand new, super advanced radar. It has AI built in, and maybe the coolest part, all the jets in a fleet can network their sensors together so they can share data in real time and coordinate attacks like a single giant intelligent swarm. It's wild. So the big question is, how fast could Ukraine actually get these things into the fight? Well, here's a huge piece of the puzzle. Their pilots are not starting from zero. They've actually already trained on older Gripen models and in simulators. That could be a massive head start, and it might slash the time it takes to get them combat ready. Okay, so let's recap. We've got the offer, we understand the desperate need, and we've seen why this specific jet is such a good fit. Now, let's zoom out. let's talk about the strategic shift and what this all means for the bigger picture in Europe. Because make no mistake, this is about way more than just sending weapons. It's a huge move on the geopolitical chessboard. So what does a deal like this actually mean for NATO, for the future of European security? Let's dig in. And this comparison right here, it tells you everything you need to know about the shift that's happening. Just look at it. On one side, you have Sweden, the newest member of NATO, saying, here, take up to 150 of our best jets. On the other side, you have the US recently saying no to long-range Tomahawk missiles because the training would take too long. This shows a whole new dynamic. Sweden isn't just sending aid, it's making a statement. It's saying, we are here, we are a serious player in European security, and we're committed to the front line from day one. And all of this leads to one final, kind of mind-blowing thought. If this deal actually goes through, if Ukraine gets all 150 of these jets, they would instantly become the biggest operator of the Gripen-E on the planet. Bigger than Sweden, bigger than Brazil, bigger than anyone. Just stop and think about that for a second. What would that mean for the balance of power in the skies over Eastern Europe? Not just for this war, but for decades to come.